Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Sculptured Painting for part 2 of our Roses on a Blue Background, which today we will be painting. The supplies you'll need are your canvas that you prepared yesterday. You'll need a paintbrush, a cup of water for rinsing your brushes. You need a paint palette, and 3 or 4 paint colors of your choosing. Now, I chose to do 3 colors for the flowers on the original painting, which I'll show you now. So I did red and pink, I did pink and red, and I did orange and red. And I just kind of played around with those 3 colors in different orders. You know, I put some red and then pink on top, pink and then red on top of that. And I want you to do the same. So pick 3 colors that you like. They can be any 3 colors. And then you are going to paint your flowers whatever combination of those 3 colors you like. So I'm going to start with red. And I'm not going to use my palette for this one because I want to paint the whole flower red. When you pick your first color, you're going to fill the entire flower, so you can just go ahead and squeeze the paint right on there. And then you're going to spread it around, making sure you get into all of the little crevices and wrinkles that you've made with your tape and tissue paper. So I want to make sure not to paint the leaves red. I don't want those to be red. But I do want to paint the edges of the flower. Because this is 3-dimensional, I want to make sure I'm painting this edge right up to where the canvas goes smooth. I'm just using my brush to sort of poke it in around the sides there. It's okay if you get some red paint on what will be the background later. That'll be fine because we're going to cover it up with a darker color. Most likely if you use blue. And just like with everything, just like when we were doing our tissue paper and our glue, we want to make sure we turn the canvas around and look at it from all different angles so that we can make sure to get into all those little cracks, because we don't want to see anything but paint when we're done with this. We don't want to see any white canvas. We don't want to see any tissue paper. All right. So I want this to dry before I put on my next color. So I'm going to go ahead and do my other flowers. Now, out of the first ones that I did, I like the pink and red combinations the most. So I'm only going to do that. I'm not going to do an orange one, but feel free if you want to do an orange one. I encourage you to do so. So I'm going to pick another flower here. Same thing, fill it all in. I know I said I wasn't going to do any orange ones, but I changed my mind and I decided I would. And now I have quite a bit of orange paint left on my brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrape that over the top of my red roses to give them a little definition. I'm not getting in all the nooks and crannies this time. I'm just putting a layer on the bumpy parts that stick up. And this won't be very noticeable when I'm done with this, but it just gives it a little added dimension is the word. A little added dimension when that dries. All right. You want to rinse your brush out very well because next we're going to do green leaves. And we definitely don't want those to have any red or orange in them because that will make them turn brown. If you want brown leaves, just use your brown paint. Make sure that your brush is clean and dry. Now we're just going to repeat this process with the leaves. With the leaves, you want to make sure you get inside, you want to get around the edges just like you did with the roses, but I am going to use my palette for this one. So I'm going to shake up my paint first. A little bit of green in there. And I'm going to start painting. So this green paint, I noticed when I did the original sample painting, is very thin, at least the green paint that I have. You might have a different brand of green paint that might be nice and thick. Everybody kind of got the same colors, but different brands of things. So your paint might not need 2 coats, but if you have this, you will definitely need to put 2 coats of green on so that the white doesn't show through. Also be careful not to bump into your wet flowers or you'll get paint on your hand like I just did. That's okay. Be a weird day if I didn't have paint on my hand. It's just about every day, it seems like. So you want to go all the way around the leaf. And then when it comes to like right up here, right next to the rose, just want to use a little bit of paint and just use the very edge of your brush to paint the top of the leaf where it meets the rose. You don't want to overlap too much because, at least on mine, that orange paint is still wet. And you don't want them to mix together because, again, that will make a kind of a gross looking brown. And we want springtime roses, not fall dead leaf roses. Okay. I'm just going to use what's left of my green paint on my palette to spread out a little bit more over the leaves that I've already painted. Like I said, these will need 2 coats. We may need to let it dry fully before we put on another whole coat, but in the meantime, let's use up what's left of our green paint in order to not waste it. Okay. So just spread the rest of that green out there. Again, you'll notice I did a couple of messy spots here where I went off the leaf and got some green on my background, and I am totally okay with that. Okay, because the next thing we're going to do is we are going to paint the background in and around and between these flowers. Again, you want to rinse your brush out all the way. Just wiggle it around in there. And then dry it off. Now, I chose to do blue for my background because it's a nice dark color and I knew it would cover up the edges of everything. So if you look at this completed painting, you can see the blue comes right up next to the pink, covers up any green that's been slopped over the edges of the leaf. So I'm going to do blue now while everything else dries so that we can do the next step, which is adding some more color to the leaves and the roses. So I'm going to take my blue paint and I'm going to add a little bit of white paint. Now there is an extra set of paints you can pick up here at the art house that contains that contains white, black, and metallic gold, which were not in your original kits. It's not necessary to pick those up, but if you do want those extra colors, whenever it's convenient for your parents, you can stop by and pick them up here at the art house. So I'm adding just a few drops of white to this blue to make it a little bit lighter. And I'm gonna use the back of my paintbrush, not the brush part, but what I like to call the butt of the brush, to mix that up. There we go. So it's only a little bit lighter, but I like that color. Actually, I think I will put a little bit more white in there. Make it look a little bit more like a blue sky during the daytime instead of at nighttime. I like that. Okay. So I'm gonna take what's on the end of my brush and just sort of wipe it on the canvas again so we don't waste anything. And then whatever's left, wipe it on a paper towel or your paint rag to get rid of it. Okay, and now we're gonna start painting. We're gonna start in the middle of the canvas, spread out the paint without getting too close to your flowers or leaves just yet. Just gonna sort of fill in this area here. It helps to paint in a bunch of different directions. Like, you don't wanna just paint like this in one direction, because then you'll see you're not filling in all of these little texture pieces that we put on there. So you wanna paint, move your brush in all different directions so we get all of those little crevices filled in. Plus, I also like the way the paint strokes look when you do your brush in kind of a crazy way. I like the way that looks when it's dry. Okay, so now I want to show you how we're going to get up close. Kind of looks like a person. How we're going to get up close to our flowers. So you're going to take a little bit of paint on your brush, not too much, and just go right up next to the flower, covering over any extra red that you don't want to see. We're going to take the point of our brush and kind of stick it in there. And we're going to do the same thing around the leaf. Now, once I've done a smooth line around there like that, I want to use my brush to kind of break it up a little bit and make it look more textured. Now I'm going to repeat that around all of my flowers. So right here on the orange, I don't know if you can see, there's the orange flower that's three-dimensional, and then there's orange on the canvas. You can actually just, you don't have to cover that up. You can just paint around it, and that flat part will also look like part of your orange flower. So I'm going to show you one more over here. A little bit more paint right up to the orange. And if you think about pushing the paint with your brush, pushing it toward where you want it to go to fill in those little spots. And if you go nice and slow, you can have control over where the paint goes, and then it won't be too messy. So I'm just gonna push the paint right up to the orange, nice and slow. And when you go slow like that, it also fills in all those little holes we made. We've used up all of our blue paint. We are going to go back when we're totally done and paint these white edges of the canvas all the way around. But we're leaving them dry for now, so you still have a dry place to hold on to when you need to turn your canvas, so you don't get paint all over your fingers. Okay, so now we're gonna rinse our brush out again. Make sure it's nice and dry. And now we're gonna start adding a little bit of our second color to our roses. So on top of the red roses, I'm gonna do pink, and on top of the orange roses, I'm gonna do red. I'm gonna start with pink, and I squirt out just a little bit of it into my palette. You don't need very much. Now you wanna use a flat brush, not the stiff bristle brush we used to do the Mod Podge. And you're gonna take it and just sort of lightly dip one side and then the other side in the paint, and then sort of wipe off a little bit of that extra. You don't want too much. You're gonna hold your brush so that it is parallel to the canvas, okay? So that means if the canvas is flat like this, your brush is flat like this, okay? Because what we wanna do is just touch the top ridges of everything. We don't wanna get down into the cracks. We're just gonna lightly scrape our brush across those ridges, and when I run out of paint, I'm just gonna flip it over. The red is still wet, so some of that is picking up on my brush, but I'm okay with that. Get a little more paint. And I'm just kind of outlining the naturally raised part of the flower. And that gives it looks like each petal has some definition, and that makes it look all the more like a gorgeous flower in real life. So I'm gonna do all my red ones with pink. Very lightly scrape it across. You don't want too much. And you want to go lightly for another reason, aside from the fact that we don't want too much. We don't want it to blend in with the red behind it. We want it to stand out as its own color, because that is the look we're going for. Put a little bit more down here. There we go. I like that. Down with that. Okay, one more red flower. Remember, I'm holding my brush parallel to the canvas, lightly scraping it over the ridges. Yes, I like that very much. Now we just have a few more details to add here. Here's what we're gonna do in order. We're gonna do another layer of green on the leaves. Then we will do, I think, a little yellow on the leaves. And then we're gonna add some glitter to the background. And then as a final touch, we can put some metallic paint on top of our leaves and flowers if we so desire. So a little bit more green. Not too much. Now, whenever you're working with paints that are very thin and runny like this green is, it's better to have as dry a brush as possible. So if you are using the same brush and rinsing it out, just dry it off really well before you dip it in the paint, because water will just make it more runny. Okay, that's looking better. A little bit more solid there. You don't have to be as careful this time around to get in all the nooks and crannies because they're already filled from your first coat. This is just to make the whole leaf look more solid. Fill in any gaps where you might see tape. Okay, I think that's all the green we need. I said I was gonna do yellow, but I don't know. Maybe I will just do gold, metallic gold. All right, we're gonna do the background now. So I'm gonna need to mix up a little bit more blue. When I say do the background, I mean finish the edges of the background. So that was mostly blue, a little bit of white. Cleaned out brush. Oh, I gotta mix it. All right, I'm gonna start painting these edges. I don't wanna see any white canvas anywhere. I want it to all be covered. And as you're doing the edges, you can come in and bring some more of that blue in around the corners of your canvas. They need a little second coat. Okay, I want to show you, I spilled a little paint here. Just going to use, while it's still relatively wet, I'm just going to get a little wet cloth and scrub it off, okay? So you can get paint off a surface as long as you get it while it's still wet or close to wet. All right, so this is as far as we need to go in terms of completing our painting. Here's the one we did today. Here's the one I did last week. But I am going to show you one more step that you can do that's optional if you chose to pick up the extra paint colors of gold, black, and white. I'm going to put just a little bit of gold on this little guy, maybe, if I can get the gold paint out. There we go. Just had to shake it up. I'm just going to do a little bit of gold detail. Using the same brush again, same technique we did when we put the second color on our flowers. We do want to make sure that it is all cleaned off, this brush. Make sure there's no blue on there. And I think I'm going to do gold for now, just on the leaves, because I like green and gold together. It's pretty. If you didn't pick up the gold paint, you can do the same thing with yellow. Give your painting a little extra flair. See, yeah, I like that a lot. So I'm scraping it across, really catching all of those little bits of texture that we created with our tape and tissue paper. I like that. Really brings everything out. So I'm not just going on the highest ridges. On these ones, I'm letting it sort of fill in some of those smaller ridges. You can do as little or as much of this as you like, or none at all. Certainly don't have to add this touch. Now, if you're wondering to yourself, what am I going to do with all of this artwork that I'm creating here at home? Well, first, it's always nice to make gifts for people. And a lovely bouquet of flowers like this that you're making might make a nice Valentine's gift for someone in your family if you celebrate Valentine's Day. If not, keep your art projects so that we can have them for Taste of the Arts whenever we do that again. Maybe a while, but we'll still need some artwork from you very talented students. So don't throw your stuff away. Hold on to it. And if you do come into the art house, and maybe you noticed when you came to pick up your supplies initially, we have some nice work that you guys did here in the fall framed up in the main room. Miss Sarah framed all that artwork and it looks really nice. So next time you're here, be sure to check it out if you didn't already see it. All right, I'm a big fan of this gold accent on the green leaves. Makes me very happy. And there you have it. There is your art project. Flowers on a blue background. I'm gonna flip this around. I'm gonna take a little picture of it. Thank you for coming to do virtual sculpture painting with me today. I hope everyone has a great week. Talk to you again soon.
Thank you.